Welcome back to Radio Entrepreneurs. I'm Jonathan Freedman, and we're coming to you from iconic Fenway Park today alongside Evan Macedo, Sapers, and Wallack, my co-host.
It is a pleasure to be here. We are just rounding the seventh inning here with all of our events. What a true treasure to be here in Fenway today. Am I right, Jonathan?
It is. It's been fantastic. I'm almost ready for the stretch. But why don't you introduce our next guest who is waiting patiently to tell us all about his organization?
Absolutely. Our next guest, we have Dustin, CFO of Sentinel Group. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Evan. Sentinel Group is headquartered in Wakefield, Mass. We serve clients throughout the U.S. We are a benefits administrator, consultant. We're an institutional advisor, and we're an advisor to many individuals and families. We also have offices in Michigan, New York, and New Mexico.
That's
wow.
Fantastic. And
Diverse.
You guys serve a lot of clients as well, individuals and corporate. Is there any industries that you have more clients in than others, or are you just industry agnostic?
We're industry agnostic. We serve from somebody like who's in the manufacturing distribution of olive oil to engineering firms, to law firms, accounting firms. So we look at it as any sort of small to medium-sized business that can really use some help navigating their benefits. We think we can provide some real value to those people. And so we're always on the search for them.
So we've come through a period of a lot of volatility. We talked a little bit before we came on the air about that. What do you see in your business since you are something that is front and center for a lot of people? I think about just a couple of weeks ago a story that broke about negotiating and making sure the benefits were in place. I mean, it's sort of an expectation of organizations today, although it's changed a little bit over the last 20 years in terms of the cost sharing, if you will. But what have you seen over the last couple of years?
So definitely working with people and regarding their retirement accounts and regarding their individual assets, they are definitely concerned and are looking at their statements and are looking at the value. So the volatility that occurs out there that can happen out of the blue and nobody knows what happened and all of a sudden it's down 10 or up 10. What we try to do is work through that with them to almost expect it, and that patience is truly a virtue. And don't let those day-to-day swings, because they're just going to happen, let them influence what your plans are and what your goals are for retiring and what you want to do.
It's interesting in those bull markets where you sort of expect that, day-to-day. I can remember 30 years ago watching the daily ticker and say, oh, it went up 10 points today. It went up another 10 points. And it was sort of that slow creep. And now you're right, the volatility, you hear one day, the Dow was down, 700 points. Pretty much guaranteed it's going to be back 700 points in the next couple of days, And
it's yes. So you don't want to get yourself caught riding that elevator up and down, and stick to your plan and stick to what you're trying to do in the long term.
And what about the landscape for benefits in general? Has that consolidated? Has it changed? It's a complicated environment. And it's, for many, many years it didn't change. And now suddenly over the last decade or so, there's been a lot of change.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely a complex marketplace. You have, if you think of the streams there, you have your retirement plans, you have your flexible spending plans and your COBRA plans that typically are running alongside your group insurance benefits. And what that all means and what that provides to you and how an employer provides those benefits to their employees is complex. And definitely in the last 4 to 5 years, given the pandemic, there was legislation changes. Secure 2.0 just came out regarding retirement. So you definitely want to look to somebody to help you navigate that so you can get the most value out of it.
And you're the guy behind the company that's helping people do it in terms of your own compliance, right? So it's got to be a complicated landscape, and every day there's something new that comes over the transom, like, we got to attend to that.
For sure. Being the CFO of Sentinel Group, it's important for me to be a strategic advisor to our senior management team. We actually have organized ourselves around the benefit services we provide. So we're almost 5 businesses in one. So in my role, I need to make sure that all those senior leaders have the most accurate information, understands what key drivers are in their business model, and really sort of what's going on in the marketplace to help them anticipate and grow and profitably manage their businesses.
And Doug, earlier you guys were talking about the complexity of the markets are going up and down. We have an election year coming up this year, which I'm sure is going to affect things to some degree. But communication of benefits is really important. There's all these different HSA plans, COBRA plans, FSA plans, and if you're not in the business, it might be a little overwhelming. Are you guys doing anything special to help communicate the benefits to the companies you're working with? And are you using any kind of tools out there that's helping to make sure that the employees of the companies you're working with really have all the tools they need to have a successful future?
Definitely, Evan. Particularly on the retirement side, there are several tools that come along with you being a participant in one of the retirement plans that we administer that help you navigate what your savings are, help you project what those savings can be, help you analyze, well, if I save a little bit more, what does it mean? If I took it down for a period, what does that mean? Mm-hmm. I think in some of the insurance areas, it's definitely a person-to-person service because it is very complex. And once a year, there's typically open enrollment for employers, and we typically work with our clients to help explain what the advantages are to your flexible spending account, what the advantages are to your HSA, how you should look at your options in terms of your group medical insurance. Mm-hmm. And that's something that we support each of our clients each year. Because you're right, it is a very tricky marketplace, so to speak.
Right.
And continually changing, and that volatility is, that curve's only gone in one direction for the most part. And I think the difference for small employers, anyways, is, it can be crushing.
Yes.
We've seen post-pandemic, if I'm not mistaken, 20, 30, 40% increases in premiums in some cases. That along with cost shift, passing along to employees. So people have to learn how to use their plans effectively.
How they navigate it. I mean, typically that is one of the largest costs of a small to medium-sized business, whatever they're paying for their group and medical insurance premium. And you do have to be careful in terms of cost sharing because, on some levels, employee can look at that as a negative depending on how it's structured and what it is and what the benefit is that's being provided.
And, I want to talk about AI for a second. It's a big booming industry. A lot of people are kind of investing technology in it. Is there any AI tools that are coming out, maybe in the group benefit space or the financial advisory space, that is going to be helpful for people to keep their eyes out for?
So I know for us internally, in terms of looking at the marketplace, analyzing the marketplace, we have several tools that we use to manage our business, mm-hmm. That I would call probably in the beginning AI era. I think like most everybody, we've experimented with ChatGPT and what mm-hmm. the potentials of that are, writing emails, developing marketing content. So it's definitely in the infancy, and it's definitely an efficiency generator, right. Both internally and for clients.
And how does, it's a little bit of that complexity associated, but in your role as CFO, and given that your organization, as you said, is operating in multiple states with presumably very different regulatory, regulations, how do you stay on top of all those pieces? For somebody in particular in your role, it must be challenging because Michigan may be very different. I think you said Michigan. Yeah. It may be very different than Massachusetts.
And they are. And
it's changing constantly.
And it's changing constantly. Actually, for me, fortunately, in my finance role, it's not as variable, but we have some great people who keep up on what's going on in those local markets. Tracking the changes, what it means, how does it apply to whoever's, to the clients and their employees. So it is, it's something that, we have compliance teams across the business to monitor what we're doing, how we approach it, what's going on, and how we communicate that.
It's really fascinating that, again, you guys have, as you said, essentially 5 different businesses. And then if you multiply that by 6 states that you operate in. So, the permutations and combinations are inherently complicated.
Yes.
And again, as the guy sitting in the chair for ultimate compliance, probably on a lot of things, from a financial perspective, you got to stay abreast and aware of what's going on in those various markets. And you must have your people in the field that, you're communicating with on a regular basis to really stay abreast of the changes, but also make sure they're taking care of the business and protecting the business.
Yes. It's you know what though, it is challenging, but it's also interesting. and staying involved with it, is engaging. And it's fun. It's nice to wake
Keeps
up.
it fresh.
Keeps it fresh, and it's nice to go to work with people who are kind of engaged in the same fashion and try to provide the value to the clients that we serve.
Excellent. Our guest has been Doug Dustin, CFO of Sentinel Group. Doug, if people want to get in touch with the Sentinel Group, I know since you have multiple different business units, pointing them in a particular direction, what's the best way for them to engage with you guys, find out more if they want to find out about your services and what you offer?
Thanks. So yeah, definitely go to sentinelgroup.com. Our website, you'll see most of us are out there, including myself. And if you also want to contact me directly, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn.
Excellent. Our guest has been Doug Dustin, CFO of the Sentinel Group, alongside Evan Macedo, Sapers and Wallack, coming to you from Fenway Park. I'm Jonathan Freedman, and it's been a pleasure, Doug, having you on Radio Entrepreneurs.
Thank you very much.
And we'll be right back with another segment on Radio Entrepreneurs.